You're doing all the practices, meditating, shadow work, reading spiritual texts, but you're not breaking through. Something's blocking you and you can't figure out what. You feel like you're on the edge of awakening but can't cross the threshold, and the frustration is making you wonder if transformation will ever happen for you. Carl Jung discovered that spiritual awakening isn't just about what you add to your life, practices, knowledge, consciousness. It's primarily about what you eliminate. And most people trying to awaken are holding on to things that make awakening impossible, not obvious things. Subtle attachments, beliefs, and behaviors that seem harmless but create barriers awakening can't cross. Today I'm revealing the 10 things Jung said you must quietly eliminate before awakening becomes possible. Not gradually, not eventually, before. These aren't suggestions for better living. They're prerequisites for transformation. And if you're still holding any of these, you're blocking your own breakthrough. Here's what Jung understood that changes everything. Awakening requires a specific psychological clearing. Like preparing soil before planting, you must remove certain elements before awakening can take root. Most people skip this preparation and wonder why their practices don't produce transformation. But Jung insisted, without eliminating these 10 things, you're not preparing for awakening. You're preventing it. Jung called this the necessary purging, not moral purification, psychological preparation. Awakening isn't something you achieve through accumulation of spiritual experiences. It's something that happens when obstacles are removed. You don't build toward awakening. You clear the path for it. And these 10 things are the primary blockages preventing your breakthrough. Most spiritual teachings focus on what to add: more meditation, more consciousness, more practice. Jung focused on what to remove, because he observed that people who awakened weren't necessarily those who practiced most. They were those who eliminated most completely the attachments preventing awakening. The first thing you must eliminate is something you're probably doing right now. Jung's first requirement: eliminate the need to be seen as spiritual, not reduce it, eliminate it. If you're still invested in others perceiving you as awakened, conscious, or spiritually advanced, you're maintaining an ego structure that prevents actual awakening. Spiritual identity is just ego in spiritual clothing. Think about why you share your practices, your insights, your progress. If there's any part of you that needs others to know you're on this path, to recognize your growth, to see you as spiritually developed, that need is blocking awakening. Because awakening dissolves identity, including spiritual identity. One of Jung's patients described eliminating this. I realized I was doing spiritual work partly to be seen as spiritual. I wanted people to know I meditated, did shadow work, was conscious. Jung said this need for spiritual recognition was preventing actual transformation. The moment I eliminated caring whether anyone knew about my practice, something shifted. My work became genuine instead of performative. This is what Jung meant by the death of spiritual ego. You must stop needing to be perceived as spiritual before you can be spiritual. The need for spiritual recognition is ego maintaining itself through spirituality. And ego maintenance prevents ego death, which is what awakening requires. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop mentioning your practices. Stop sharing insights to demonstrate consciousness. Stop needing anyone to know you're doing this work. Not from secrecy, but from genuine indifference to others' perception of your spiritual status. Jung's second requirement: eliminate using spirituality to avoid psychological work. Many people use awakening concepts to bypass trauma, difficult emotions, or personal responsibility. Everything is illusion. My past doesn't define me. I choose love. These become ways to avoid actually processing pain. Before awakening can happen, you must stop using spiritual concepts to escape your humanity. Awakening doesn't transcend your psychology. It requires completing it. If you're using spirituality to avoid feeling your wounds, facing your shadows, or dealing with your trauma, you're preventing the very transformation you claim to seek. One of Jung's analysans described this. I was using spiritual language to avoid my rage at my father. I forgive him. Everything happened for my growth. But I hadn't actually felt the rage, processed the hurt, grieved the loss. Jung said, I had to eliminate spiritual bypassing and do the actual psychological work before awakening could occur. Spirituality can't skip psychology. It has to complete it. This is what Jung meant by psychological completion before spiritual transcendence. You can't transcend what you haven't integrated. You can't forgive what you haven't felt. You can't release what you haven't processed. Eliminate using spiritual concepts as escape from emotional work, or awakening remains impossible. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop using spiritual language to avoid feeling, when you can sit with your rage, your grief, your shame without immediately transcending to higher perspective. Real awakening includes your humanity, not escapes from it. Jung's third requirement: eliminate identification with being wounded, damaged, or victimized. Not deny your trauma, eliminate making it your identity. As long as you're primarily the abused one, the traumatized one, the one who suffered, awakening can't happen because you're maintaining an identity structure. Awakening requires dying. Think about how you relate to your past. If your wounds are your primary identity, if your trauma is your defining story, if being damaged is who you are, you're holding an ego structure too tightly for awakening to dissolve. Awakening requires all identities dying, including victim identity. One of Jung's patients described this elimination. I'd built my entire identity around being an abuse survivor. It was who I was. Jung said I had to eliminate this identity. Not deny the abuse happened, but stop making it my defining characteristic. The moment I stopped being a victim and became just a person who had experienced trauma, something profound shifted. I'd been holding victim identity to avoid the terror of having no identity at all. This is what Jung meant by releasing wound-based identity. Your trauma is real, your pain matters, but making it your identity prevents awakening. You must eliminate defining yourself by what happened to you before you can discover who you are beneath all that happened. You'll know you've eliminated this when your trauma becomes something you experienced, not who you are, when you can discuss your past without identifying as the person it happened to. This isn't denial, it's releasing identity attachment to your wounds. Jung's fourth requirement: eliminate the compulsion to heal, save, or awaken others. Many seekers are obsessed with others awakening as a way to avoid their own work. If you're focused on getting your family conscious, your friends awakened, or society enlightened, you're projecting to avoid going deeper yourself. Before awakening, you must eliminate the need to change anyone else, not reduce it, eliminate it. Your work is your consciousness, not theirs. Every moment spent trying to wake others is a moment avoiding the depths of your own transformation. And Jung observed that people who genuinely awaken become completely uninterested in forcing awakening on others. One of Jung's analysans described this. I was desperate to make my wife understand what I was learning. Jung asked why I needed her awakened. I realized if she awakened, I wouldn't feel so alone. I was trying to fix her so I wouldn't have to face my own isolation. He said I had to eliminate this need to change others before I could complete my own transformation. The moment I stopped trying to wake anyone else, My own work accelerated dramatically. This is what Jung meant by ending the savior complex. You're not here to save anyone. You're here to awaken yourself. Eliminate the need to fix, heal, or enlighten others. Let them be unconscious if that's where they are. Your only job is your own consciousness. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop trying to get anyone to read books, watch videos, or understand concepts. When you're completely at peace with others being exactly where they are. This isn't apathy. It's recognizing that everyone's process is their own. If you're still holding these, need for spiritual recognition, spiritual bypassing, victim identity, need to fix others, Jung would say, these aren't minor issues. These are barriers preventing awakening. Eliminate them before going further. Before we continue, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. Now, these next 6 eliminations are even more challenging. Jung's 5th requirement: eliminate the need for psychological comfort. Awakening is brutal, uncomfortable, terrifying. If you're still arranging your life to maximize comfort and minimize discomfort, you're preventing the ordeal awakening requires. You must eliminate comfort seeking before awakening becomes possible. Think about your choices. Are you avoiding situations that would force growth because they're uncomfortable? Staying in relationships that no longer serve because leaving is hard? Keeping jobs that numb you because change is scary? If comfort is your priority, awakening isn't possible. They're mutually exclusive. One of Jung's patients described eliminating this. I was addicted to comfort, familiar routines, safe relationships, predictable life. Jung said awakening requires walking into fire. I had to eliminate choosing comfort over growth. The moment I started making uncomfortable choices, ending the dead relationship, leaving the safe job, facing what I'd been avoiding, awakening accelerated. Comfort was my cage. This is what Jung meant by embracing the ordeal. Awakening isn't comfortable. It's death and rebirth. You must eliminate prioritizing comfort over transformation, or you'll stay stuck at the comfortable edge of awakening forever, without crossing the uncomfortable threshold. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop avoiding discomfort, when you're willing to make choices that terrify you if they serve your awakening. When comfort stops being the metric for decisions. Jung's 6th requirement: eliminate the need to know, understand, or be certain. Many seekers are addicted to certainty. They need frameworks, answers, explanations. But awakening requires dwelling in not knowing. If you're still clinging to certainty about reality, self, or meaning, you're preventing the void awakening requires. Before awakening, you must eliminate the need to understand. You must become comfortable with I don't know, with uncertainty, with groundlessness. As long as you need solid answers, you're maintaining psychological structures that prevent awakening's dissolution of all certainty. One of Jung's analysands described this. I needed to understand everything, why things happened, what they meant, how reality worked. Jung said this need for certainty was preventing me from entering the void awakening requires. I had to eliminate needing answers before I could tolerate the questions. The moment I became okay with not knowing, something opened that certainty had been blocking. This is what Jung meant by the wisdom of not knowing. You must eliminate certainty before awakening, not find better certainties, eliminate the need for certainty itself. Awakening happens in the space where you stop knowing and start being. You'll know you've eliminated this when I don't know becomes comfortable, when you can exist without answers, when uncertainty feels like freedom rather than anxiety. Jung's seventh requirement: eliminate collecting spiritual experiences, practices, or knowledge as achievements. Many seekers are spiritual materialists, accumulating teachers, techniques, insights like possessions. But awakening isn't about accumulation, it's about elimination. Think about your spiritual consumption. How many books, practices, teachers, experiences are you collecting? If you're approaching awakening like building a collection, you're preventing it. Spiritual materialism is ego maintaining itself through accumulation of spiritual things, and ego maintenance prevents awakening. One of Jung's patients described eliminating this. I had hundreds of spiritual books, dozens of practices, multiple teachers. Jung asked what I was avoiding by constantly accumulating new approaches. I realized actually doing the work. I was collecting spirituality to avoid practicing it. He said I had to eliminate spiritual materialism, stop accumulating, and start actually transforming. I got rid of everything but one practice and went deep. That's when breakthrough happened. This is what Jung meant by depth over breadth. You don't need more practices. You need to eliminate the addiction to accumulation and go deep with what you have. Stop collecting spiritual experiences and start actually having one. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop seeking new teachings, when you commit deeply to one path instead of sampling everything, when you realize awakening isn't in the next book, it's in finally doing the work. Jung's eighth requirement: eliminate living for future awakening. Many seekers are always preparing, always getting ready, always working toward awakening that's perpetually in the future. But awakening is now or never. If you're living for future enlightenment, you're preventing present awakening. Before awakening can happen, you must eliminate the "when I'm awakened" mentality. Stop imagining your enlightened future self. Stop working toward awakening as a destination. Awakening isn't something that happens later. It's available now if you eliminate the psychological structures preventing it now. One of Jung's analyses described this. I was always thinking, when I'm awakened, then I'll... Jung stopped me. When? Awakening is now, or it isn't at all. You're using future awakening to avoid present transformation. I had to eliminate living for enlightened future and face that awakening was available right now if I stopped blocking it with future orientation. This is what Jung meant by the eternal now. You must eliminate future orientation before awakening, not work toward enlightenment. Eliminate what's preventing it now. Awakening isn't a future achievement. It's present recognition once obstacles are removed. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop saying, "when I'm awakened." When you realize that awakening isn't something you'll achieve, it's something you're preventing through psychological structures you can eliminate now. Jung's ninth requirement: eliminate dependency on external teachers, guides, or gurus. Teachers can point the way, but if you're dependent on them for your awakening, you're preventing the autonomous transformation awakening requires. You must eliminate teacher dependency before you can awaken. Think about your relationship with teachers. Are you waiting for someone to awaken you, hoping someone will tell you what to do, how to be, when you're ready? If you're dependent on external authority for your transformation, you're maintaining a child's psychology that prevents the maturity awakening requires. One of Jung's patients described eliminating this. I kept seeking teachers hoping one would finally give me the key to awakening. Jung said no one can give you that key. You have to find it yourself. I had to eliminate dependency on teachers before I could take full responsibility for my own transformation. The moment I stopped seeking external authority, I discovered the authority within. That's when real work began. This is what Jung meant by self-authorization. You must eliminate depending on others for your awakening. Teachers can help, but your transformation is yours alone. No one can do it for you. No one can give you what you need. You must find it within. You'll know you've eliminated this when you stop seeking teachers, when you trust your own knowing over anyone's instruction, when you realize you're your own authority. Jung's final requirement: eliminate the fear of ego death. This is the ultimate barrier. As long as you're protecting yourself from dissolution, awakening can't happen. You must eliminate the fear of losing who you think you are before you can discover who you actually are. Every other elimination leads to this one. All the attachments you're holding: spiritual identity, victim identity, comfort, certainty, accumulation, future orientation, teacher dependency. They're all ways of protecting yourself from the terror of ego death. But awakening is ego death. You must eliminate the fear of it before it can happen. One of Jung's most profound patients described this. Jung asked if I was ready to die, not physically, psychologically. Was I willing to lose everything I thought I was? I realized, no, I was terrified. He said until I eliminated that fear, awakening would remain impossible. I had to become willing to lose myself completely. The moment I stopped protecting my ego from death, awakening became inevitable. This is what Jung meant by the ultimate surrender. You must eliminate protecting yourself from dissolution. Stop holding on to who you think you are. Become willing to lose everything: identity, understanding, security, self, before awakening can happen. You'll know you've eliminated this when you're genuinely willing to die psychologically, when you'd rather know truth than preserve yourself, when you stop protecting who you think you are. The 10 things you must eliminate before awakening need to be seen as spiritual. Spiritual bypassing, victim identity, need to fix others, comfort seeking, certainty addiction, spiritual materialism, future orientation, teacher dependency, fear of ego death. Jung would want you to understand, these aren't suggestions. These are prerequisites. You can practice meditation for decades, but if you're still holding these attachments, awakening won't happen. Not because you're not working hard enough, but because you're preventing what you claim to seek. Awakening isn't about adding more practices. It's about eliminating obstacles. These 10 things are the primary barriers. Remove them, quietly and completely, and awakening becomes possible. Keep them, and transformation remains forever, just out of reach, no matter how much you practice. Review these 10 eliminations honestly. Which are you still holding? That's where your work is. Not more meditation, not more reading. Eliminate what's blocking you. The breakthrough you're seeking is on the other side of releasing what you're still grasping. Stop accumulating. Start eliminating. That's the work Jung said actually produces awakening. Subscribe for Jung's insights on the awakening process. To dive even deeper into Jung's revolutionary psychology and what it means for your spiritual awakening, click the recommended video on your screen now.